Hi, everybody. Welcome to the CCW Safe podcast. I'm Rob High here in Oklahoma City, outside of CCW Safe headquarters, currently down here at the 50 Ranch. So we are coming in today, got a special guest. My partner is Phillip Naman, back home in California.
Yeah, you're correctly identifying all the different studios I've been in.
And joining us today, we got a special guest, Santiago, is it Labos? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, you are. Santiago Labos.
Okay. Santiago is a transplant from California. He's currently living in Texas, America. Whereabouts in Texas?
Houston. I'm in downtown Houston.
Okay.
Oil industry surrounded. It's a change, but yeah, glad to be in Texas.
Very cool. We'll be down there here in a few weeks for NRA.
Okay.
So if you're home that weekend, swing by and see us.
Sure, will do.
Santiago is a shooter. He's a competitive shooter. He has really kind of blossomed with quickness. So obviously you have a nice natural aptitude for it, coupled with work ethic. So in 6 years, you've come a really long ways as a competition shooter. I'd like to know a little bit about how you got into shooting. And I know for me, when I first started, I would go to the range to practice, but it was kind of futile because I really didn't know how to practice. So learning to practice with a purpose and to actually work on those fundamental skills and advance them and actually get growth from it instead of just a bunch of empty brass on the floor. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got your start, how you got going into this thing?
Sure. Well, growing up, I grew up around guns. My father was an avid gun collector. I mean, we had, you name it, he had it. And as an adult, when I left home, I had no issues with it. I just never felt like I needed to purchase one. And then I had kids. And, I got married, had kids, and I said, I got to protect these guys somehow. And looked into getting a firearm. My first firearm I purchased was actually late 2015, believe it or not. I had 4 kids at the time, and it was the first handgun I purchased was a SIG P229E, 229 enhanced, just a compact, and it was chambered in 40. I had no idea about calibers, and 40 S&W just kind of like, I felt it in my hand. I liked it. Went to the range, static range, indoor range with the public, and I'm hitting the bullseye or A zone, from 7 yards, pushed it out to 15 yards or at the end of the lane, and I said, oh, I'm really good.
I got this.
But slow firing and line up the back sight with a front sight, that type of shooting. And then, I was perusing the internet one day and I saw Keanu Reeves training for whatever. That's right. So I saw that video. I go, is he shooting real ammo or real, is that live ammo? And he's, transitioning between weapons. It's like, what is he doing? And then I read some article. He's practicing 3-gun, right? So here I am in my house, and I Google 3-gun locally, 3-gun Southern California, and the first video that pops up is of a grandmaster named Jojo Vidanis. He won the rifle world shoot in Russia back in 2017, and I think he won the pistol, modified pistol, in late 2000s. And there was a YouTube video of him. He's a big guy, but he was just I didn't know what was happening, but he was flowing through a course of fire, and the shooting never stopped. He was moving and shooting, and I didn't know what I was watching, but I knew that that guy was good. I said, wow, whatever he's doing, I want to do that. And so, you know, I looked them up, and they run a match called Norco Run and Gun, Inland Empire, out of at the time it was Rahagi's range. Phil knows where that's at. And went in there, and I thought I was badass. You know, I thought, you know, I'm in an indoor range, I have an aptitude. It was a completely different story. I mean, these guys were running around, you know, from position to position, just shooting as fast as I've ever seen anybody shoot, you know, at the time, shooting paper, steel, and then going to, you know, on one side, and then just running, doing reloads. Like the manipulations were magical. I didn't know what was happening. And this was my first time out. I went to an all steel stage. I literally had like 60 rounds. I was shooting a Glock 19, which is a horrible, you know, gun I mean, it's Glock 19 is awesome for self-defense, but for this application, not great. And I ran out of bullets. You know, I ran out, you know, I couldn't finish, and it was so humbling, and I got my butt kicked. And I'm that type of personality. If the challenge is huge and seems impossible, I gravitate towards that. I mean, I'm naturally competitive, you know, just in general, right? I just need to analyze things and try to break it down. You know, that's years of golf, you know, competitive golf, and then kind of translates to shooting as well, right? It's very target oriented.
Well, your hand-eye coordination, right? If you're a good golf player, you've got good eyesight.
Yep.
Yeah, hand-eye coordination. And so, you know, I shot pistol, and then soon after that, I shot my first 3-gun match at Paula, at the Paula range, and down by
near San Diego, Temecula.
Yeah. So yeah, and I was hooked. I mean, I did awful. Like each initial match, I was awful. Finished, you know, dead last place and everything. And you know, I just did the research. I read books on how to dry fire, on like you said, how to train, and I just went all in. Started hanging out with the crowd, and I found that all these people were just like me. You know, you have to understand, I grew up, you know, I was living in Long Beach at the time. Most of my, you know, social circle are not as conservative as myself, let's say. And I just felt like I'm looking in my gun safe, and, you know, in the span of, you know, since I bought the SIG 229E, within a span of months, I had a full, you know, a safe full of guns. I mean, just the dumbest calibers, anything you can imagine, like 308. I mean, I believe the salesperson at Turner said I was one of the biggest customers of 2016. You know, they look, they go, oh, you know, Santiago, you're one of our you know, one of our VIP customers. But I just loved it. There's just something about it, and you know, I get a lot out of it. You know, I can't stop. I just feel like it's just like golf. You will never. You know, you'll never attain, you know, 100% excellence. It's always going to be a challenge.
Well,
so is that what you say? Yourself. Yeah. Is that where JoJo says, quickly as you can, take the cartridge from my hand, right? It was a kung fu.
No, but funny story is JoJo, he was the gunsmith of my first open gun.
He's a great gunsmith.
Yeah, he is a great gunsmith, JV Industries. If you're looking for a full custom pistol, I would highly recommend them versus.
So let me
go ahead.
Yeah, I know he's amazing. JVI Industries. He's out near Southern California. Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah. You mentioned earlier you shot with a Glock 19, and you're like, well, that's not a good pistol. So you kind of said, okay, it's good for self-defense, but this is a specialized sport that you're into, right?
Yeah.
Just like, hey, there's lots of golf clubs at Big Five. Are they the best ones winning the Masters tournament? Probably not. So
Exactly.
So explain a little difference between a race gun, if you will, versus your stock off the shelf Glock 19. And some Glock 19s, you know, take it to JoJo or Zev or somebody, and
Yeah.
they make these things fantastic. So tell a little bit about what's the difference there.
Well, in action shooting, you know, part of it is mitigating recoil, and a polymer gun, especially a compact gun like the Glock 19, even a 17, the muzzle rises. Even if your fundamentals are sound, the muzzle rises. So that's time on the clock that is disadvantaged versus a guy with a bigger, heavier gun, right? Like a CZ or even a Glock 34.
34, yeah.
Yeah, so the Glock 34 has a longer, sight rate. Yeah, and the recoil, you know, is controlled. I mean, a lot of folks, USPSA is constantly changing the rules. Now you can have a weapons light mounted. They increase the weight of these. They call it carry optic guns, and even the limited division, where you can, put a weight like a light to hold the muzzle down and more steady. And they do that. USPSA, and maybe it's the same way for IDPA, I don't know, but there's a lot of influence from the gun manufacturers and the trends, and the trends nowadays is very tactical. They want more participation, so they're saying, well, we'll allow weapons mounted light and such. But back to what you're saying for,
well, when you were shooting that Glock 19, if you would have had the bayonet attachment, you could have finished the stage. You know, had to run up, tink, tink. But it's
at the time, I didn't know an essential fundamental, which is shot calling. So in this sport, part of it is you are imagining, or you're calling your shot. So to neutralize paper, you shoot one initially, and then you shoot the second shot. And a lot of it is predictive, right? You don't have a clean sight picture. A lot of the fast action pace shooting is very blurry, right? It's very target oriented. The sights are blurry, and that's quite a change. And actually, that little reality is something that an in-range shooter to an action shooter, they have to transform and get used to seeing a blurry sight as they
or no
shoot.
sight. Or
right.
No sight. Yes.
A lot of index shooting. I try not to do that, but sometimes, the paper, or the target's just right in front of you. And, instead of bringing it to your eye, sometimes, especially with a PCC, you could just shoot from like a low ready, position. That's called index shooting. But, back to the different types of guns. A heavier gun is going to be your friend. A steel frame gun, I think, is better suited for action shooting. Maybe not in a defense situation. I mean, we can get into that, but some polymer guns are okay, but they are like the polymer guns that are being used are actually quite heavy, and it's something that you probably wouldn't want to carry on your hip. So,
in Riverside County, for your CCW, they allow you to put six guns on your card. San Bernardino County, you can get 3 guns on your card. And it's kind of funny because the officers who are doing the interviews and stuff, they always say, the Model 29 is always on the guy's first go round. Model 29 is 1911 and a shield. This is on the next time he re-ups, it's just the shield. They just don't want to carry the bigger guns. Fortunately, I have 6, but I've got them, I have my 29 on there because we're hiking, walking the dog, and
right.
It just feels good outside, but it's not what you're going to carry. But not what most people are going to carry. If you want to carry it, that's great. But I have friends who do, but they walk like this because their spine's out of whack.
It's something we've always talked about, though, and that is what is your mission? Santiago is he's shooting a competition. He is decking something out that's going to be controllable and fast, and he's easily on target. He knows when he's on target. Versus, I got a SIG P365 XL that is like my favorite everyday carry, very concealable. It's got enough capacity that I'm not concerned with, running out of 6 shots and being empty. It's a very user-friendly gun. It's got a great trigger on it right out of the box. And I don't have to race it up. But you were talking about getting into books and all the study that you were doing on your own. Was there any guy or group of collection of guys that you're like, man, this guy really speaks to me. This guy, he helps me stay in my lane?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the books that everyone references who starts off is a book by a guy named Ben Steger. And Ben Steger is a national champion. I mean, again, I don't know the history, but I know he's won the production and I believe limited on a national level. And he wrote a book that was very detailed on and giving dry fire exercises, things that you can practice at home. Dry fire is practicing at home, dry, no live ammo. And he'll, in the book, he writes down certain drills, setting up scaled down paper targets or even full scale paper targets, and working with a timer, setting the time like a par time. And there are certain times that have to be met in order for you to advance. Right. So this guy's done extensive research, obviously. And like, for example, a bill drill, practice the bill drill, fire 6 shots, at home with a timer. And then, later on in the week, go and confirm that time in dry fire. Right. So it's an expensive sport. So if you can do a lot of dry fire, that would help mitigate the cost. And with dry fire, you get good with weapons manipulations. You get used to moving your eyes a certain way, target transitions, because a lot of it is you're shooting with your eyes. If you can look at a light switch and point your finger at the light switch, your brain is going to automatically bring you there. Same thing with a gun. Like there's a lot of subconscious stuff happening. You just have to allow it. You have to allow it to happen.
You have to use the force.
You have to use the force. Use your eyes, and dry fire is a great way to accomplish that. So that was the book that I read. Ben Steger, he has a number of books. He also has a book on live fire drills, as well as match mentality. But that helped me a lot. And then a lot of the top end shooters offer classes, and so I was a D class shooter, just total trash. And I took
we like to say beginner, not total trash.
I was awful. I shot 5 matches, was spraying bullets, didn't call any of my shots. And when I showed clear, I'd turn around to my friends and I'd say, did I hit anything? I didn't even know if I hit anything. Right. So I did that for 5 months. And then I took a class out in Las Vegas with a guy named JJ Racaza. And JJ is, he's a national champ, probably the Michael Jordan of our sport, prior to a kid named Christian Seiler coming along. But, JJ really broke it down. And for the first time, I realized, I understood the scoring aspect. It's time and accuracy. It determines a hit factor. But he was very, very, he drilled into all the students. It was prepping the trigger prep and movement, so those were alien concepts to me. But trigger prep is very important. So in all fairness, you cannot shoot a gun effectively or hit a target without prepping the trigger.
Yeah.
And what that means is that there's a take up on most triggers. So you take the slack off.
Uh-oh, he's taking off the slack. Got a freeze here. You still live there, Rob? Yeah.
I am.
Off the trigger and moving it,
Hey, we had you glitched out on us there a second. So go back over trigger prep
Stayed.
again.
Oh yes. Okay. So a trigger prep is basically like this is a trigger, right? And then you just take the slack off, and then there's a wall. So basically, what a trigger prep means is just taking the slack off and being prepped, to pull the trigger. So the slack is about, like, if you have a 2.5 pound trigger, you take a pound of slack off, and then now you're just left with 1.5 pounds. So it's much lighter. You disturb the sights less. And, if you're looking at a target, you prep that trigger, the gun does not move as much. So
let's start. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, so JJ spent a quarter of the class talking about trigger prep, and he would not let us advance to the next portion of the class until he felt like, we got it down. So I never knew how important that was, but that was a lesson that I carry, till this day. If I'm under pressure and I need to make an accurate shot, I don't think about aiming the sights. I pay attention to my trigger finger.
Yeah. JJ is actually part of our team. He's one of our ambassadors. So yeah, we're quite familiar with him and his teachings. He's actually been out here to our place at our range and done some classes. But yeah, if you haven't seen somebody shoot like that, and that's your first introduction,
my gosh.
Oh my gosh, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Very special.
Yeah, he's a very special individual and actually, well liked, very, very humble. But that guy is, to me, is the epitome of. There's another guy, Eric Raffel, too, but these guys are fit, they're fast, and they're very cerebral. And the guys that excel in this game are very, very cerebral and think things through. They just don't rely on their athletic.
Typical Bubbas, right? People think of all gun owners have to, wear plaid or camo everywhere and have a 6-foot beard or something like that. If you have one, that's fine. But
there's a lot of
we get stereotyped quite a bit, and it's nice to see somebody that good. You mentioned trigger pull now, or in your trigger prep situation, you said if you have a 2.5 pound trigger. Now, most guns, let's just go back to the Glock 19. Okay, it's got this little safety on there. It comes with about an 8 pound trigger. So the difference between a production gun or something off the shelf versus what you're running is amazingly different. Matter of fact, most hunting rifles, sorry about that, I'm on a roll here. I have to go before I forget. I'm getting old. So like most hunting rifles are 2.5 to 3 pounds. That feels light to a lot of people. Competition rifles are 1 to 1.5 pounds, and bench rest is like 4 ounces, which you look at it and it better be sitting down when you load it. So there's different applications for what you're doing for different trigger pulls. A 2.5 pound trigger, like we've talked about this before, Rob, if somebody's got a 2.5 pound trigger on their carry gun, could they have some explaining to do later on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about modifications that are acceptable and things that it doesn't really, it doesn't mean there's some kind of intent there or anything. You're just trying to make your gun as user friendly as you can, but you also need to understand that a prosecutor can come in and attack that, and it was like, oh my gosh, he made it so much easier to kill.
A hair trigger.
And a hair trigger, that's right. We've discussed those things and the reasons why we really don't support just your standard everyday carrier to go make those kind of adjustments. If you're following and and building a skill set like Santiago, and you're getting into very competitive situations and running and gunning and shooting like that. You know, the first competitive shooting I ever did was very, very static. You know, I shot PPC stuff with a wheel gun, and you know, you're talking about. I know when we first went to a weapon mounted light on our stuff in the police department, the very first thing I thought was, I'm just as happy to have this on here for an underlug for the extra weight, because it's the same thing we added on to our bull barrels, our match guns when we were, you know, when we were shooting bullseye stuff. So all of that equates really well to me. It just kind of meshes, and I understand the use for it. It was nice having a light, you know, an additional light available too on the job. But my mission now is not the same mission. My mission now is I'm a concealed carrier. I'm a civilian. I'm in the world, and if I have to make that kind of decision, it's because I have zero other choices available to me. There's no other options. I have to defend myself. So,
and just to be clear, you know, I'm not knocking the Glock 19. That's
No.
actually my the Glock 19 is my everyday carry, along with the CZ P10C, which is, you know, is the same size, fits in the same holster. But you're absolutely right. I mean, my triggers, I don't mess with them. It's 8 pounds or maybe even 9. But
It keeps you going to the gym just to work your finger out, shoot those guns.
But again, you know, I'm with you guys. It's like you're opening yourself up if you're modifying, you know, your triggers, you know, for your so.
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
Obviously, all of your competitions didn't just take place in California when you lived there, and they don't just take place in Texas now that you've relocated there. So you're having to travel. I don't know how much of that you're doing by car. I don't know how much of that you're doing by plane, but if you would kind of go into a little bit of explanation on safe travel with your firearms as you're going from competition to competition or whatever. So
Right. So I, prior to this year, the only time I traveled with a firearm was to Sweden, believe it or not. I participated in the Rifle World Shoot, you know, with the US team. And I think I talked to Phil about this. I packed my AR-15, an extra upper, and man, I would say about 1,000 rounds of of 223 ammo. And that was a little different because when we got off the plane, you know, the Swedish police met us out there. My name was on a list. You know, they checked me off. You know, you're good to go. You're a competitor. Boom. I was a little more apprehensive traveling within our own country, because from state to state,
yeah,
you know, let's face it, it's not the same per airport, even though it's all TSA. It just depends on where you fly into, right?
Depends on who's working there that day.
Oh, absolutely. So, like I told you guys off air, I just participated in a 3-gun match called Superstition Mystery Mountain, and that was in Arizona, and I knew that I was going to fly from Houston to Arizona. So the last 2 months I've been traveling with my firearms from Houston to local matches, either in Arizona or California. And at first I was a little, you know, sketchy, but I needed to do this as a dry run. So when the time comes, you know, a major match weekend, this travel thing is old hat. So basically what I have for my case, my 3-gun gear, I have a case made by Plano, and it holds my rifle, pistol, and shotgun, and it comes in right at just under 50 pounds, right? So I have TSA locks on those, or they say TSA approved locks, but you really don't need a TSA approved lock. You can have a master lock in there. All the TSA wants is just access to that. So I bought a bunch of cheapo locks that awful, because I went to Home Depot and it said TSA lock. Talked to the TSA agent. They said, these locks, they suck. You're better off buying just a master, master lock with a key. That's not
getting 4 or 5 of them with the same key.
Exactly. So pro tip there, stay away from these TSA approved, cheapo locks. You can put whatever lock you want, as long as TSA has access to it. So,
let me touch on this, because this is actual happened to me. My first trip hunting in Mexico, we're going down for mule deer. So I had my favorite hunting rifle in a lockable case. And again, TSA approved, right? So I had every little attachment there was. I had one of those little TSA stupid locks that don't keep anything out.
Yeah.
And then I actually had, just for luck, I guess, I wrapped my cable lock around the handle, the one I had for storing the gun, and locked it up. So the gun goes out away from you at TSA. When you go into to a place, you declare, hey, I have a firearm. They'll determine how they want it. Usually they don't look at it. They'll call over somebody from TSA. They'll take you to a separate place. They wipe it down looking for bomb residue, like you're going to put a bomb in your gun case. But anyway, that's what they do. And then it's out of your sight. So I leave it with TSA. Now, flying to Mexico, we're on a small plane. We land in Hermosillo. You get off. And as I get off, they're unloading the cargo. So I'm like, oh, there's my gun. So I walk with it all the way into the Mexico customs. As I look, all the TSA locks are gone. The only thing holding my gun together was the one cable lock. So somebody in LAX was trying to steal this gun, right? Because it didn't happen in Mexico. I was with it from the plane to the customs, and that happens. So I would say, from now on, every time I go, I have a bigger case, and I've got master locks everywhere it goes. And that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, to have several locks. If there's slots for 4, locks, use all 4. It makes it that much harder. But back to traveling within the country. I keep my gun case separate from the ammo. There's a weight restriction, and so I actually have another Pelican case that I keep all my ammo. And they don't want loose ammo, but so I have it. It's not, so I reload. So I don't really have factory ammo. I have the little reloading cases, and I stack them. But I actually put a lock on my ammo case as well. But when you come into the airport, like let's say your flight leaves at 2:00, you're better off getting there, right at noon, because it's going to be at least a 30-minute process for you to check in, declare your weapons. And some airports, they'll ask you, like here in Houston, Hobby, they'll ask you to, they'll write the little slip, put it in your gun case, but ask you to take your gun case to the TSA. Yeah, so that doesn't happen in every airport. It happens in Arizona as well.
San Diego, they come and get it. LAX, they come and get it.
Yeah, so there's inconsistencies, right? But bottom line is you need to be present. Like when they open your case and they handle your guns, you should be present. And some of them, they don't want you touching it, obviously, but you need to be there. If they're taking your case and inspecting it, away from you, I don't think that's that's right. But
some of them do it.
So here's a story. I had one of those stupid TSA locks, right? And I put it in my ammo case. When I got my ammo case back to the hotel room, I opened up the Pelican case, and there was a slip that said, a TSA agent has opened your case and inspected the contents. This was a random check. So I looked at all my ammo. It was still there, all my equipment, magazines, and all that. But I thought that was kind of weird, like just just randomly searching your bag. I mean, I guess that's if the TSA has power to do that, so be it. But it was a little unsettling because I have thousands of dollars.
I don't know how I get selected, but I get that
Yeah.
almost half the time I fly.
Okay.
So it happens frequently.
Yeah.
Because you look like the Ayatollah.
Absolutely.
Right. And I look like a dentist, right? So
Well, dentists are prone to suicide, so
It has always amazed me, because if anybody is going to get pulled out of line for an additional search, it seems like it's me. Or they'll pull my, ask me to step to the end. I'm going to go through your carry-on, and I don't know if it's because of the numbers of guns and ammunition I've carried in everything that I own.
Yeah.
That it's coming up on their little sniffer thing or whatever it is, but I don't have an issue with it. I just have to make sure that I get there a little early, because I'm going to be inconvenienced a little bit. But again, I mean, how many times I've got to the hotel and I start opening up my stuff, and then there's that PSA notice. It was like, thanks for letting me know, guys. I appreciate you. So
so I mean, allow yourself at least 30 minutes for this rigmarole. Just expect to go through this, and everyone's pleasant, as long as you're pleasant and not, I've seen some attitudes where people just get super pissed, but
not going to help you.
Bottom line, and not going to help you, and just be very polite about it. Ma'am, sir, I'm checking in firearms. Can you help me? Yeah. And it's gone smooth. It's gone smooth. Now, I will say, these guys, they don't give a crap about what the contents, because I've seen them dump it. I mean, just mishandle my gun case, and I'm thinking to myself, shit, they're throwing off my zero. I have to read zero wherever I go just to check zero. But these guys, even it says fragile, just expect them to mishandle it. That's the reality.
And that's the other thing I was going to try and bring up here. You mentioned the Plano case. So I've got some of the Plano cases. I think they're amazing, but they come with the foam inside, and you could actually design what you want. Some of it's like a pluck foam or whatever, or cut it the way you want it. So your gun or your rifle is held securely. So when they bang the heck out of it, and they will, it has a better chance of survival. So Plano's a good one. SKB out here in California, or at least they used to be in California. Those are great heavy duty cases. The stuff you might find like your hard case, like at Walmart or something, really isn't what you want to have on the plane. You want to have one of these specific cases.
Yeah, with the foam cutouts. The foam cutouts is you. That really, it nestles in there, and it looks cool when you open it up. It looks like you're organized.
Which is all it's about.
Which is all it's about. I don't like opening, like sometimes there are people behind me, and I open my gun case and I get a lot of oohs and ahs. They think like I'm some kind of hitman or something, but it's just competition stuff.
Phil gets a lot of oohs also, but it's usually more like ooh.
No, it's more like L. Yeah.
Is there any sponsors you got right now that you'd like to give a little mention to?
Yeah. So I just came on board with Stag Arms. Stag Arms is a rifle manufacturer. They're out of Wyoming. So they build obviously 223, 308, and they have some precision guns, chambered in 6 art. So they are very supportive of the competition scene, and I wouldn't consider shooting for a team that doesn't support the U.S. and all our freedoms that are afforded to us, but B, It really resonates with me if I see these guys sponsoring matches that I shoot in, like that are highly visible. So, I knew of them, and it quite frankly, it's an honor, to shoot for these guys. The other two guys on the team, Chad Torres, he just won his division, at Superstition Limited. So limited division is no magnification on your scope. And he was shooting out to 350, 400 yards this weekend, and he just annihilated the field. And then Ron Fuchs out of Arizona, he's a lefty, and Stag Arms is very big on making lefty guns with the ports, ejecting on the left side. So they have a line that caters to lefties, and then they also are developing a line called specifically 4.3 gun here. So I'm going to be shooting some of their newer offerings here. It's the Elite series. And so basically what that means is that they have a Gucci trigger, really nice ballistic advantage barrel, which, and all the internals I shoot anyway, on my Frankenstein gun. So these guys are supplying me with rifles, different barrels, and then they're very open to my feedback here. So I told them, reliability is huge, and I think Stag Arms makes some very quality rifles here. So it's quite an honor for me to shoot for these guys.
Good deal. Now, what about your own personal stuff? Is there any way our folks can go out and take a look and see what you're doing and see some of the things that you're posting?
Sure. I'm very active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Sant, which is the first 4 letters of my name, Santiago, Sant, and then 3 more letters, LBC, which is Long Beach City, which that's where I grew up and that's where I'm from. So Sant LBC is my Instagram handle.
How do you do that crypt thing again?
Yeah, but I am wearing blue, right? So
I can't do it.
Yeah, I could do it, but I'd be embarrassed to do it because I'm in my work clothes, right? So
Sant
yeah,
LBC on Instagram.
Yeah.
Sant
Yes.
LBC Instagram.
Yeah, and actually on my highlights there is a picture of my case, my gun case, with the cutouts.
Now you're just bragging. See. Now you're just bragging.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I post a fair amount. I shoot in the open division, so it looks like I'm the Tasmanian devil, but because I'm shooting very fast, I'm pulling the trigger very fast. But then so is my competition, so I got to keep up. Yeah.
So, how about any takeaways? You got anything for us there, Phil?
Well, I just think that it's amazing. You can see somebody like Santiago or Jason Mayashiro, some of the other people we've shot out here that just decide, hey, I want to do this. And they put in this time, they put in the effort, and all of a sudden they're at the top of the game in a short period of time. Just their hats off to their dedication. I'm not at the top of the game because I don't have that dedication. I'm the jack of all trades, master of none. But their focus, and they're doing their dry firing, they're doing what they need to do, and this is how they get the results. I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I love to share in their success.
Yeah. You got anything you want to leave us with there, Santiago? Appreciate you coming on so much.
No, I mean, I will encourage anybody to try a competition. I mean, the community here, I mean, I will say, the camaraderie you feel with like-minded people is amazing. You go to these competitions, even if you just witness it, it is actually pretty entertaining if you're into guns. And I just highly recommend it. What I guess the mantra is, come in and shoot with whatever you have. I came in with a Glock 19. I had a battle belt. I was all tacked out, and I had the time of my life. And then, obviously you're going to be around people, that know what they're doing. They'll point you in the right direction in terms of equipment. But, you go there to your initial competition, just be safe. Safety is paramount. And don't expect to beat somebody like JJ Rakaza. You're going to screw up. You're going to be trashed the first time. But my gosh, it's the most gratifying thing. Instant gratification is something that appeals to me. And, that's why I played golf for a very long time. But this is just like golf, but just 10 times more exciting.
Yeah.
And
Well,
way
again,
cooler.
it's one of those that we've touched on with other things about adding that stress element in it as well. It just gives me a much greater preparation in the event that I get put into that critical situation that I do have to defend myself. So I've kind of been built up under pressure, and I've made myself better at what I do.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's shooting back at you, but you're absolutely right. The pressure on the clock and clearing a malfunction, just something like that. When the time comes, I like to think that it's second nature. It's second nature to most of us shooting competitively. Just how to clear a stovepipe or tap racking. It's just like you just do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are definitely some life-saving skills that you can acquire being on the clock. I'm not professing that I'm the toughest, tactical guy, but with the amount of shooting that I do, I'm not a sitting duck either. I'm not a helpless, dumbass. I think I could, take cover and then put some very accurate shots downrange if when the time comes.
Well, as always, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We always welcome your comments and concerns, suggestions, critiques, typically directed at Phil if we can. You guys can always reach me directly. It's rob@ccwsafe.com. So we always appreciate your feedback and get back to you with quickness. And we're so thankful for all our members out there that are tuning in. So Santiago, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. You guys
Thanks
go
for
to that IG page, check him out, see his stuff, and maybe that'll motivate you a little bit to get out there and really get on your game and practice. So thank you so much. And Phil, buddy, I'm ready for you to get out here next month. I'm
Looking forward to it, man. It's coming up right away. So yeah.
It's rolling up on us fast. So
We
thank
start
everybody for
practicing.
tuning in, and we will see you again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Pleasure, guys.